Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Hello and welcome back to the GenXGrownUp Backtrack Podcast, the podcast in between our regular episodes where we talk about things that we remember fondly from our years growing up in the 70s and the 80s. I am John. With me as always is Mo.
Hey, everybody.
And George is here as well.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It is going well. Hey, so on these Backtrack episodes, you guys know we have already talked about things like games we played and toys we enjoyed. But another key pillar of the GenXGrownUp building is technology. Mm-hmm. The tech thing that kind of came to mind that we want to talk about this time is remembering back to rotary phones.
Wow.
Yeah.
So thanks you guys for dialing in for this episode.
Hey, speaking of dialing in.
That's right. All right, so hands up, who remembers rotary phones? All of us.
All of us.
Can you hear my hand up?
I'm just thinking about that whole term, dialing in.
Yeah.
Right.
That used to mean something.
Right.
That meant dialing.
Dialing.
There was a dial. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't dial numbers anymore. You punch number. Right.
That's true. I guess especially people today, they pick up their cell phone, they press dial, they don't understand. If they're younger, they don't understand what the word dial even means to that phone.
Right.
There's a whole lexicon, right? The logo of the old Ma Bell phone is still the logo for phones, although no one has a phone shaped like that.
Right. Unless you're a hipster.
Right? Unless you're a hipster that has a Bluetooth one.
A Bluetooth one, right.
Yeah, or the terminology of dial, like you said. Nobody dials anything anymore unless it's the volume knob on their car stereo, and that's digital.
Yeah.
Right.
Take us back then, George, before the world of touchtone, which is a new technology beyond rotary. Explain to someone listening who has never seen or used a rotary phone. What's a rotary phone, and why are we talking about it?
I guess then the best way I can describe it is you had this giant squarish rectangle, usually a really pretty color, something along the lines of avocado or black
beige.
Or maybe pink if your mother had bought the phone, I guess.
Sometimes beige.
Yep, beige.
Sometimes beige, yeah. On it, they would have this circular dial that had holes in it, and those holes lined up with numbers along the face of the phone. You would put your finger in whichever hole for the number that you wanted, and you would spin it in if I remember right, it was clockwise direction.
Yep,
until you hit this little metal guard, and then you would let go, and the dial would spin itself back to its original position. Then you would pick your next number, spin that till you hit the little guard, and it would and let go. And you would do that 7 times, or 10 if you were foolish enough to call long distance, which you had to pay for back then.
Yeah.
The dial returning to its home, that was actually the dial.
Right.
Yes.
That was what was sending the pulse.
Right.
It wasn't you dialing it. The dialing was actually releasing the number, and the number of clicks it sent was the number it was generating.
And there was no fast dialing. You
No.
had to dial at the pace of the dial. You had no choice.
Right. Speed dial? No such thing.
No such thing as speed
No.
dial.
Yeah.
And you talk about the beautiful beige or avocado phone. Something I remember certainly on all of my phones. By the way, you have one phone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's central to the house. It's probably in the living room, dining room area. And mine was bolted to the wall.
Yep, so was mine.
And we had the luxurious 10-foot cord. Those coiled cords could knot themselves like headphones never could. Your headphones could only dream of being knotted.
Yeah, worse than Christmas lights.
Yeah, worse than headphones, worse than Christmas lights. Those things would get tangled and knotted, and it never looked like they did when they came out of the box. You would stretch that thing to whatever part of the house you needed, 10 or so foot away. You could pull a little harder and get an extra foot if you're trying to sit down. That was before affordable or reliable wireless technology. No wireless phone.
I still remember for my grandmother, for Christmas one year, we bought her a cordless phone for her wall. So there was no cord attaching it.
And it had an antenna, didn't it?
Yeah, it had a big antenna on it. It lasted about a week because she basically kept losing the phone. And she got pissed off. She's like, the old phone, I always knew exactly where it was.
We should have just tied it to her chair.
Yeah, so we wound up putting an old phone back, and she was happy. How many times did your finger slip on the last number?
Oh, I have to start over.
You had to start all over again.
Oh, God, I hated that.
That kind of goes into the next thing I was going to mention about it, is that something you take for granted now is that rotary phones took time to dial.
Right.
I mean, now you just kind of like, boop, 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 boop. You know, you dial somebody. If you dial at all, it's probably from memory. Or you say, you know, you tell your Google phone to call somebody and they just do it. If somebody had a bunch of 8s and 9s in their number, I had to think twice about it, whether I wanted to give the time to call them.
Like,
you know what the worst part was for me? Regular radio stations would do contests.
Yeah.
And they would give away tickets to concerts or, you know, a record or something. That just
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, you had to be the 5th caller or the 9th caller.
Oh, and you had to dial over and over.
Yeah, and if you and that
pain.
rotary phone, that was an art to be able to figure out how to just get those 6 numbers and that 7th one at just the right time. I never could. I was terrible at it.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you could dial the first 6, and you're like, okay, anybody else want to talk to him? All right, I'm just going to talk to him. And you dial the last number. Right, you had like a pause before you finally committed to the call.
Yep.
There's one other thing I'm thinking that, you know, because with the old phones and new phones that they don't have anymore, busy signals.
Oh,
busy
right.
signals.
Yep. Busy
Oh, that's
signals.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
You know,
Yep.
You call
That's
somebody and it's busy, you had to wait and call them later.
And it wasn't just like
how I
call
missed
them back
that.
right away because you knew it was going to be a while.
Yeah.
How I missed that. Back then it meant, Mo, if you try to call me and I'm busy, it's up to you to get back to me.
Right.
You don't just say, hey, it's Mo, call me back. Well, now you're putting it on me, and I didn't want to talk to you in the first place. But with a busy signal, it was up to you to go, if you want to talk to me, you try again. That's right. Now you put the responsibility on the recipient who didn't want to talk to you. I mean, I'm not saying they don't want to talk to you, but they're not initiating the conversation, but you're putting the task on them to call you back, right?
Yeah. And
there's
then they don't call
there's
you
no
back. It's like,
voicemail. There's no call waiting back then. Well, I guess was call waiting.
They added that later.
Yeah. It
But
came
was
out
that
like
during the
about later.
rotary phone era? Or
Call
was that,
waiting kind of came around the era of touch tone,
Yeah,
I think.
it was
Because
the
push
touch
buttons,
tone.
right?
there were
Yeah.
star codes. Yeah. Star 69.
69.
It was a verb. I'm going to star 69 you pervert. Stop breathing in the phone.
Right. Did a lot of people say that to you, John? Was there a problem that we don't know about?
No, I'm just a hypothetical.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you guys about this. Happened to me actually, not pretty recently. You know, I had one of these new modern phones, right? I had upgraded, so I had the replacement. I went to the Apple store, and they just gave me a new phone because I was just going to transfer it when I got home. On the way home, I was like, oh, I should call my daughter, see if she needs something from the store. And I couldn't remember her phone number. Because it wasn't programmed in my phone anymore. I'm thinking about that, and I was like, I still remember the phone number for my first house phone. I remember my two best friends' phone numbers. I remember my grandmother's phone number.
There's a whole lobe of my brain that is atrophied because there was a time when I used that lobe of my brain to remember dozens of phone numbers. I knew all my best friends. I knew how to call the school. I knew how to call movie phone. I knew how to call time and temp.
I knew
had
my
all
dad's
these different
work,
numbers.
my mom's work. I mean,
That's right.
You just knew them.
Yep.
Whose number do you still know? There was a time when you had to remember all that stuff.
That was kind of a rite of passage as well. Like when you were growing up and your parents would start to allow you to go somewhere without them, you had to they had to make you remember and memorize your home telephone number in case somebody grabbed you or you got lost.
Yeah, you got to make sure you know your address, know your phone number, stuff like that. Now it's just like take your phone, I'll track you, punk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was like I still remember just the idea that, you know, certain numbers, and I had a friend's number. Now this is going a bit into touch tone, but I was easy to remember his number by because I remember where the buttons were placed.
The pattern.
Yeah, the pattern.
Right.
He was a pattern.
The patterns. Yeah.
I remember there was a guy, I wasn't great friends with him, but he lives just up the street from me, so we were friends by convenience because we lived kind of a rural area, and he is actually walking distance. And I still remember his phone number because it was so easy to dial on a rotary phone. Because the last 4 digits were 1221.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's
That's
a dream number for rotary. It's like I could call you in my sleep. Done. Oh wait, you talked about the busy signal, dial tone.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
Dial tone.
You had to.
There was
see if
another
you had
sound
one.
you had to hear that said, "Okay, it's ready for you to call now." If you didn't hear the dial tone, that meant that something was wrong with your phone, or somebody else was already on it, or something. So you had to listen for a special
sound. That was
sound.
a different sound. If you picked up a phone and you had a second phone in your house and somebody was already on it, that was a whole different sound that you heard. Get off the phone!
And so folks that only have grown up knowing cordless or especially cellular phones now, I mean, it's unthinkable, but there was a time when you couldn't just call somebody and reach them any time of the day, anywhere.
No.
You could
Right.
only reach them if they were at their house.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you try to call me and I'm not literally sitting in my house, an earshot of my phone, you just got to wait and talk to me later.
Yeah.
That's unthinkable now. Everyone is immediately reachable now.
Yeah, because the whole thing back then was, what time do you get home?
When are the good times to call you?
Yeah.
Now the question, instead of when you get home, now the question is, which number do you have on you at all times?
Yeah. What's the
Right?
one that I can always reach you
Like
at?
you're filling out an application or signing up for something, which number can I always reach you at? And I hate that.
What you brought up earlier, John, about how you kind of put the onus on the other person now, whereas before it was on you.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, if I wanted to go to a friend's house after school, I had to call my dad at his job. If I couldn't reach him, I called my mom at her job. If I couldn't reach him, I tried to call someone at home. And if I couldn't reach anybody, I had to go home.
You couldn't go.
I couldn't go. You know, and it was on me to try to get in contact with them.
You either knew all those numbers, or I know what we had a dog-eared, taped-up piece of paper above the phone that had 1 million numbers of people you might or might not need to reach at any given time.
That's right. It was like your own personal phone book, which, by the way,
You'll-
that's another thing from that era, right? A phone
Yeah.
book. I mean, I know
A
they
written
Phone
still,
books. Oh, that's right.
you know, every now and then you get one in front of your door and you're like, who the heck needs a phone book anymore? Right?
Yeah.
That's right. I take offense. That's like, you now I'm responsible for throwing this away.
Right.
Right. I don't know if you've looked at one recently, but do you know they still advertise in a phone book?
That's crazy.
Let me tell
what
you,
for?
they have a great sales team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must.
How do you convince somebody to advertise in the phone book
That's just
today?
nuts.
Now, in the day, people were beating down the phone book's door to
Oh
advertise.
yeah, that was
Right.
the place. And you know, I remember people would do things like they call themselves AAA locksmith because they'd be first in the phone book.
That's right,
AAA.
first in the phone book. Absolutely.
That's where those names came from.
Makes no difference. It's be like, investing in milk delivery these days, or ice truck.
Or ice
It's
trucks.
like we just don't need those anymore.
Well, because, the phone books, just like the phone, it was a permanent fixture in your house. It was something that you had to have, and you didn't throw it away. You kept it. It wasn't like
yeah,
a
that's
newspaper
right.
that you kept for a week and then you threw it out when you got the next one. No, it was
Right.
there for a year
was-
before they
yeah,
came
that
out
was,
with
that
a
was
new one.
permanent advertising.
The number you have reached, 323, is not in service. Please check the number and dial again.
Now, rotary phones, they weren't just in your home. There was a whole nother subculture of technology around rotary phones that was entitled the phone booth.
Phone booths.
Yeah. Remember
Right.
those?
I can't remember the last time I saw one.
Gosh, yeah, it's been a while.
There were a huge part of the iconic culture of America. I mean, they even made it into comic books with Superman, right?
Yeah.
That's where Superman turns into Superman, right? Yeah, now those are all but gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pretty much are. I mean, one of the things that I remember from my childhood, we would go on trips. Some of the times it was just me and my mother. Most of the time my father would go, but occasionally it would just be me and my mother for like a Christmas trip. And one of the things that her and I were just talking about, she used to on purpose stop at Cracker Barrel restaurants, because Cracker Barrel restaurants, they had food, they had snacks that you could buy, and they had a phone booth inside where she could sit down comfortably and feel safe so that she could call back Dad and say, hey, we're in Tennessee right now, or we're in Georgia. Or
Right.
back then it was, can I find a phone somewhere that I can reach out to my loved ones and let them know where I'm at?
I've also think like back in the day when we had regular rotary phones, the big things, looking at Star Trek with the communicators.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
I remember thinking those things were like just so far in the future. They were like flying car kind of technology. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's, oh, wow. We'd be able to carry something with us wherever we go, and people would be able to talk to us, and we could talk to anybody we want to in the world, and da-da-da-da.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Yeah, you can now shoot and edit Star Trek with the phone you've got in your pocket.
Right.
Rotary phones were just something you're never going to go back to. There's so
No.
many parts about it, things that we've touched on. They have to remember numbers, and it takes time to dial, and there's special sounds, and on the culture that it impacted, like you said, how if someone wasn't there, you had to call back, or if they're busy, it was up to you.
Right.
Or the fact that you had independence. It's a sign that technology is more than just the tech. It's how it impacts how we think and how we live on a daily basis.
I know this was just one topic, but if there's anything that we can put some links in, we'll put it down in the show notes down below.
Since you're still with us, I assume you like the show, so be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast aggregator, whether it's Pocket Cast, Google Play, or iTunes.
Yeah, speaking of iTunes, if you use iTunes, or even if you don't, please fire up iTunes, find GenX Grown Up, and give us a 5-star review, and give us a little bit of a text review too. The more people that comment on the show, the more it helps other people find us. And if you're listening to this, please tell a friend who doesn't know about GenX Grown Up or our podcast. If they're your friend, they probably like the things that you like. They might enjoy it too. Grab their phone out of their hand, subscribe to us, and say, listen.
I think they should also tell a stranger.
Friends, strangers, anyone on the street, grab their phone. Good advice. Solid advice.
Don't forget to send us an email at podcast@genxgrownup.com. A lot of the ideas that we have are not necessarily our own. A lot of them are coming from the listeners who are out there listening to the podcast and sending us emails. So podcast@genxgrownup.com.
Yeah, we love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And also, hey, don't forget to visit us on YouTube or on our site at GenXGrownUp.com.
All right, guys, it has been a lot of fun as always.
Oh, yeah,
Thanks for
great.
dialing in.
I'm going to see if I can find an app for my cell phone that has a rotary dial. I'm sure
I
there's
bet you they
20
do.
of them out there.
I'm sure you can.
Yep.
All right, guys, we will be back in 2 weeks with another Backtrack, and next week with another full episode of our podcast. I will see you all then.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you guys later.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Basically, life sucks as a grown up.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!